YouTube! In this video I'm going to teach you how to train the trick of sit pretty, which is not only good for building your dog's balance, body awareness, but it also builds your dog's core muscles, which is good for preventing your dog from injury to the spine during sports like canine freestyle, agility, or frisbee. So if you have a healthy dog, this is a perfect trick to train your dog so that it will protect your dog's body from injury during sports. But if you have a dog that has a pre-existing injury to their body, it's best to check with a physical therapist if this trick is going to be good for your dog or detrimental to your dog. Step 1. Lure the dog into the position. You want to practice this trick on a surface that has traction, like carpet or grass, so that your dog doesn't slip. And the first step is simply lifting a treat over your dog's nose and clicking or saying yes as your dog's feet lift off the ground. So most dogs don't have very many muscles in that area, and it can take 2 weeks to a month to build up the appropriate muscles to be able to sit pretty for 5 seconds. If your dog is a little bit uncoordinated, like Splash was when learning this trick, and tends to fall when you lure your dog, then you can support your dog while you're doing the exercise so that your dog is safe from falling and scaring themselves. If your dog is scared of being touched or restrained, then you need to work on that first, or not support your dog at all. So to do that, you can stand behind your dog like this and lure the dog into the sit pretty position, and your legs are there and your arm is here, protecting your dog from falling over. If the dog wants to get down, they can. It's not about forcing the dog into the position, it's about helping the dog from falling over. Good girl. Free. You want to make sure that your dog's back feet aren't crooked and that their spine isn't crooked while they're doing this exercise, because the whole point is to create equal protection on both sides of the spine with the muscles. And if you have them sitting incorrectly, you can actually be doing damage rather than good. So as you can see, when I'm luring Tug to sit pretty, sometimes his legs will swing outwards, or he's not sitting straight. As you can see there, he's sitting on his side, so that's not good. So you want to lure the dog forwards and make sure that their feet are nice and straight and completely symmetrical before you lift the dog up into the sit pretty position. You want them to start practicing a straighter sit for their own good. Good job. Tip. You can support your dog's weight with your arm or a chair when your dog is first learning the trick. This will help build your dog's balance and muscles without having to give the treat as frequently as when the dog is balancing on their own. Step 2. Remove the lure. Once your dog can maintain the position for 5 seconds, then I would start to remove the lure. One way to get rid of the treat lure in your hand is to lure the dog into the position, say yes, and feed the treat, and then immediately after, pretend to get a treat, lure the dog into the position, say yes, and then feed them the actual treat. So your dog is learning that even though there's no treat in your hand, it still pays to follow that empty hand into the position. Yes. Now if your dog starts getting suspicious and they're like, hey, there's no treat in there, then simply go back and use the treat again to lure the dog into the position, yes, and then do it again, yes, and then have no treat. Yes. Good boy. So another way of getting rid of a lure is luring the dog into the position, and then as you lift the treat above their head, yes, you're going to mark the dog for staying in the position while you move the treat away. Yes. And then the treat comes back. If your dog's feet go back down to the ground, simply don't mark. Yes. Or if your dog stands up. You can also use the clicker for this. Step 3. Add a cue. So to add a cue, you can turn your luring gesture into the hand signal for sit pretty. To do that, you lure your dog into the position, click and treat, and then you can fade that luring gesture into more of a hand signal. Tug, ready? Awesome. Good boy.
Adding a verbal cue.
To add a verbal cue, you can simply say the verbal cue before you move a muscle to do the visual cue. So I'm going to say, he already knows sit pretty, so I'm going to change it to meerkat and then do the hand signal. Good job. Meerkat and then do the hand signal. Awesome. Meerkat, and then I'm going to click him offering what he thinks might be the behavior, and it looked almost like a sit pretty, so I clicked it. Then you don't always want to make it harder and harder, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to lower the behavior and get some really good repetitions of the behavior I like before making it harder. Sit pretty. Good girl. Sit pretty. Yes, that's it. Good girl. Once your dog is a master of sit pretty, you can then add duration and a release cue. So your dog can sit pretty until you tell them the release cue, for example, free. Splash, sit pretty. Good girl. Free. Awesome.
Step 4. Proofing. If you want your dog's sit pretty behavior to be a reliable behavior, you need to do some proofing. Here are some examples of me proofing the behavior with the distraction of food. These are some tricks that can be trained after teaching sit pretty. Don't forget to subscribe to channel Kikopup.